Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today, our very special guest, Mr. Stephen Stills, otherwise known as Jamie Laszlo. This is Viewer Appreciation Day. Once again, round two for Jamie on the show. So, Jamie, welcome. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving weekend, holiday, all that good stuff.
Yes, it was good. Very small, just the wife and I, COVID. But it was great.
Cool. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's I was just telling Jamie before we went live that I haven't been here on the channel in what seems like forever. It's been at least 5 days, 6 days. I don't even know. I've lost track. I feel like I'm going to be a little rusty. I haven't shaven in a number of days. Oh, but I am wearing my brand new. Jamie's totally clean shaven.
I got right in the character.
Hot off the presses. Hot off the presses. I can't even speak. Hudson Valley Squares t-shirt, right? Go get them while they're hot. This is a limited edition available on our merch page. You'll see the link below. So check it out if you're a fan of the Hudson Valley Squares. Back to business, though. So today, Jamie and I have been talking about doing this one for quite a long time. As you can imagine by Jamie's apparel and everything he's got around the room, today we're talking about ranking the albums of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, when applicable. So we've got, what do we got? 8 albums here, 8 studio albums we're talking about. So we are going to rank them from our kind of least favorite all the way to our favorites. And Jamie's already warned me that his ranking might be a little controversial. So we'll see how that goes. But as always, my esteemed guest gets to kick us off with his number 8.
All right. First of all, I understand that I might look more like Stephen Stills of Buffalo Springfield. Sue me. I'll put my name and address in the comments below if you want to sue me. Let me put down the guitar because I don't know how to play it. And I need my glasses because this Stephen Stills is blind as shit.
There you go. Aren't we all?
All right. I want to say I did Elton John with you.
Yep.
Months ago. Now I'm doing CSN. I feel like I'm turning into the soft rock guy, the easy listening guy. And I want everyone to know I have an edge. I promise I have an edge. I love metal, but I just need to clean up some albums out of the way here that I was listening to today before we get started. But yes.
And I will verify, as Jamie and I talk quite a bit, Jamie does listen to a lot of different stuff. So yeah.
Yes. So let me just get these albums out of the way here because I do have an edge, Pete. I swear to God.
We haven't seen it yet, but he hasn't.
I'm kidding. I wasn't listening to these today. I was listening to them yesterday. All right, let's do this, Pete. Or should I say, let's do this? Number 8.
That's right.
Looking Forward, 1999. Not an awful album. It shows their talent, but I just don't have a lot of fun when I listen to this album. As soon as it's over, I forget how the songs went. They don't stick in the head at all. There's a little bit of compressed production. The very first song, Faith in Me, isn't bad. Stephen Stills in the 80s and 90s, he liked to incorporate like a Caribbean beat or Caribbean beat into a lot of his music. That's one of the songs that he did that with. And by the time Faith in Me came, that whole Caribbean thing was getting a little tiring for me. But on this somewhat average album, Heartland's a good song by Graham Nash, but otherwise kind of average. One of my favorite Neil Young songs ever is hidden on this album. It's called Slowpoke. It is a wonderful song. It would fit on Harvest. And one of my favorite lines from that song is, "When I was faster, I was always behind." I guess that just kind of means when you're young, you're trying to keep up with everything, you're moving fast and you're always behind. And when you're old, you're like, F it. And you just sit down and you're right in tune with everything.
Yep.
So
you don't care at that point. Yep, exactly.
No, you don't.
All right, my number 8, I'm going to go to 1988's American Dream. So here, after many, many years, we got Neil Young back in the fold. Okay, and this album was made shortly after Mr. Crosby spent some time in prison, right, for various drug issues and things like that. it's 88, right? So big 80s slick production. Some good songs though. I think, to me anyway, I think I don't know whether that production style fits this band. Okay, because this band, you think of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, takes you back to a certain time. And I don't, the big, beefy, overproduced thing for me doesn't really work with this band. Some of the songs sound a little rushed. In saying that, though, there are some very good tracks on here. I love "Don't Say Goodbye," beautiful piano ballad. "Nighttime for Generals," kicks ass, nice rocker, right? You got "Shadowland," quirky, fun song. Does it really sound like Crosby, Stills, Nash Young? I don't know, but it's still a pretty cool tune. You got "Driving Thunder," bluesy, kind of rocks. You got slide guitars all over the place. Clear Blue Skies might be my favorite song on the album. And that totally sounds like what we remember this band. Okay.
And it has a nice CSN message.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And it's got all those harmonies, which is what you really love from this band. For me, I think there's way too many songs on here. And I think the band they're trying to figure out where they fit in this decade that's totally about everything else other than this style of music, unfortunately. So, give them credit for trying to do it, though. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these legacy bands, as the 80s wore on and moved into the 90s, they were trying to, well, how are we relevant today? And I think, partly this album succeeds, partly maybe not, but I still think there's a handful of really good tracks on here. And, quite frankly, was it cool to see the four guys back together again? Hell yeah. So, not a bad album. I don't think any of these albums are bad by any means. It's just, it depends on, what you like the most. So it's going to come in at the bottom for me, but I still dig the album. Back to you.
Yeah, none of these albums are bad. A few of them have bad songs, though.
You are correct.
My number 7 is "American Dream." So I'm kind of almost there with you. It was a big deal when this came out. There was a lot of hype around it. And I remember when my local radio station in Pittsburgh was going to debut the new single from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I'm like, all right, here we go. Play it. Here's the title cut. And then this silly little flute sound comes in and this drum beat that's like manufactured drum beat. I'm like, this is it? This is the big song? It sounded like a leftover from Landing on Water, Neil Young's album. But it does have "Got It Made," which was played on the radio quite a bit at the time. That's a good song. My favorite song is "Night Song" at the very end. Oh, that is a banger. "Soldiers of Peace" is as cheesy as it gets, and I love it for all its cheesiness. I just love it. I sing along with it. "Compass" ain't bad. I've seen Crosby, Stills, and Nash more live than any other band I've ever seen. They're like my dream theater to you.
Right.
I haven't seen them like 52 times like you've seen Dream Theater. I've seen them 15 times, I think.
Okay.
And every time I saw them, well, not every time, but a lot of times I saw them, David Crosby would say, "Steven writes the rockers, Graham writes the pop hits, and I write the weird shit."
And that's absolutely true. Yep.
Yes. And "Compass" is kind of one of those weird shit songs of his. So it's not bad. Like you said, it's not a bad song, but it's long. And like the previous one, "Looking Forward," you kind of feel its length. And with most bands that have multiple lead singers, where each one has a different style, if they do a longer album, it normally feels shorter because of all the styles. But these two albums, they kind of feel long. So yes, my number 7, "American Dream."
Well, it's telling that you mentioned the album it's a little bit too long, and I mentioned it as well. We both mentioned totally different songs from that album. That just goes to show you there's a ton of stuff on that album, right?
Yeah, yes. We probably left off 3 too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. All right, my number 7 is the album with the absolutely awful cover, "Live It Up" from 1990.
Dogs on the Moon.
Geez, what were they thinking here? I mean,
A friend of mine told me that he thought that the hot dog they're cutting off is Neil Young. and the other three are Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Well, that could be. That could very
I
well
don't know.
be.
We were really high in college. We were just talking.
And you know what? And unless you look really carefully, and I never noticed it, you got like little guys crawling up the sticks that are holding the. I mean, I never really noticed that. I don't know if everybody can see that, but yeah, just wacky cover. Anyway, this was released in 1990, so this is the sequel, the successor to American Dream. So here you got, of course, you know, less songs. All right, you know. I don't know, or you could arguably say maybe a little tighter album, but this to me is kind of like their straight rock and pop record. A lot of those kind of breezy, acoustic, folky type of things are kind of missing on this album. There's a little bit of it. You get the title track, really good song. Dig that one quite a bit, very memorable. If Anybody Had a Heart, also nice hooks in that particular song. Haven't We Lost Enough is maybe one of the couple kind of mystical folky pieces on the album. Dig that. Got to Keep Open, tons of groove on that. Catchy song. Here you got some nice acoustic textures and vocal harmonies on that track, as well as House on Broken Dreams, which I think, you know, might be my favorite song on the album. And then, you know, you got After the Dolphin, which is, you know, pretty cool rocker, right? Nice catchy hooks and harmonies and things like that. So, you know, pretty strong album. Like I said, I think it's a tighter album overall. Is it a perfect album? No, but it's got plenty, I think, to recommend, despite the terrible album cover art. So that's my number 7.
Well, I'm right there with you. My number 6, Hot Dogs on the Moon.
Yep.
With the telephone pole workers on it.
Yep.
You mentioned Live It Up. I think that was their last gasp trying to get a hit.
Probably, yeah.
I actually have the original cassette single that I bought back in the day.
Oh,
Live
wow.
It Up.
Okay.
Yeah, remember cassette singles or cassingles?
The singles, yeah.
I think that Anybody Had a Heart. Yeah, you know, it's okay. Tomboy. Oh, I don't even like the title of that song. I remember when I first thought that's going to be a bad one. I already know. Yours and Mine, I like a lot. It's a David Crosby song. Arrows, you know what? It's written by David Crosby and Michael Hedges. I don't know if you ever seen Michael Hedges live.
Not live, no.
Oh, crap, dude. I saw him open for CSN one time. And you would shut your eyes and you swear to God there was 5 guys playing guitar on the stage.
Yeah, you talented dude, yeah.
Right. And they had not only did they write the song, they had Bradford Marcellus on the song. They had all the right ingredients for that song. Too bad the soup sucks, though. Yeah. I don't dig that song at all. It shows talent to write it, though, but I just don't enjoy it. But you mentioned Haven't We Lost Enough? Top 10 Stephen Stills song for me. Top 10. I think it could fit on the debut. It could fit on Deja Vu. It almost seems out of place on this album because you got 80s keyboards just drenched all over this album. And then that acoustic number comes on and you're like, yes, that's what I want. Right there. Hit the sweet spot.
Yeah. So
number 6, Hot Dogs on the Moon.
There you go. All right. My number 6, 1994 is After the Storm. I actually like this album cover quite a bit. So here we are, you know, it's just a trio here. A lot of really good engaging songs on this album, I think. Only Waiting for You, Find a Dream. You got the real bluesy Till It Shines. You got the hard rock. I mean, you know, it's amazing how many like kind of hard rock tunes are like littered on some of these later albums. And of course, you know, that's Stephen Stills all over that. It Won't Go Away. And it's funny because It Won't Go Away. If you listen to the lyrics, man, is that song relevant here in 2020.
Didn't I tell you a few weeks ago?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. You listen to that song like, wow, am I really listening to a track from 1994? It's like people, if anybody's watching who has not really been keeping up with the Crosby, Stills, Nash stuff, you know, like post 1977 or whatever, definitely go here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your stuff and listen to It Won't Go Away and pay attention to the lyrics. It's 2020. It's totally that.
Yeah.
I like their rendition of the Beatles In My Life. I think that they did a really good job on that. You got Bad Boys, which is a nice raucous, crunchy Stephen Stills hard rock tune. Camera, it's kind of a breezy folk pop song. I dig that. Again, that's kind of like old school, right? Which
David Crosby weird shit.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, I think that this is a pretty strong album. It's just a shame that really nobody bought this back in the day. I mean, this album was, when you look at the grand scheme of things, at like how much notoriety this band has always had, the few people who actually paid any attention to this in 1994, pretty slim compared to, most of their catalog. It's a shame because I think it's a fairly strong record. So that's my number 6.
On it on its release date, that Tuesday, because albums used to come out on Tuesdays.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know how much sense that made, but I mean, we grew up with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did want to mention on the Live It Up album, I saw that tour. They opened for the Grateful Dead in Pittsburgh, Three River Stadium. And
Wow.
I've never saw the Dead, never liked the Dead. Is it weird that I like CSN, but I don't like the Dead?
Two completely different beasts.
Yeah, I guess so. But all my buddies that I worked at a record store with love the Dead. So we got our floor seats. CSN came on. They were great. That Grateful Dead show, though, everyone's dancing around me. I'm sitting in my chair like this. Chris Allo is correct. The worst experience of my life. The funny thing is that I was walking in a Blockbuster around 2003, 2004, and they had DVDs of the Grateful Dead for rent. They all came from the same box set, I could tell, but they had the show I was at. I'm like, okay, a little older, a little wiser. Let me rent it. Let me see what, maybe I'll see it from a different point of view. I lasted 7 minutes. I was like, no wonder I hate this shit. Oh my God. I don't know what song. Are they on their first song? Are they on their 7th song? Have I been here an hour? Have I been here 5 minutes? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Dead are one of those bands. It's like you either really get it or you don't. There's really no middle ground with those guys. And I like the Dead personally, but I have to be in the right frame of mind and really in the mood to listen to them. I can't just say, gee, I don't know what to listen to today and just pull out a Grateful Dead album. It doesn't really work that way for me. I have to, there are days where I'm just like, you know what? I'm in the Dead mood today. And that's what you're in the mood to hear. But yeah, I can imagine if you're really not into that kind of music and you go to see them live, that's got to be a long evening.
I compare their music to a hummingbird. Seagulls swoop down, they get a fish, they swoop back up. That's the kind of music I gravitate towards. Hummingbirds just sit in one spot, not too much up, not too much down, just right here. I like this flower. That's what their music is to me. All right, number 5, right behind you. After the Storm. When I first bought this album, I was like, another crappy album. But you know what? I revisited it for this video. This is a good album. It's got some great songs. Like you said, Won't Go Away. The words. It's not hard to find a song that you agree with politically. But it's rare to find one you agree with politically that you can dance to. And I can dance to that song. Well, I can try to dance to that song. In My Life, like you said, good Beatles cover. Graham Nash actually hung out with the Beatles and drank after shows way before either guy was popular. Well, he was with the Hollies before either band was popular. I read that in this book right here that I'm reading. Wild Tales.
Cool.
Graham Nash. I wanted to finish it before we do this video so I have all little knickknacks to say. I'm a slow reader. Only Waiting for You, another one of those Caribbean type of things that Steven Stills likes to do. But this one's fun. I like it a lot. Panama. Steven also likes to incorporate Spanish flavor into songs sometimes. Even at the end of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, there's a little bit of Spanish flavor. Bad Boys, it's a straight ahead rocker, but let me tell you what I hate about Bad Boys. I hate that he put a Z on the end of boys instead of an S.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to mention that. Yeah.
Good
song.
Bad Boys with a Z is very cheesy. So yeah, it's a good album. It won't go away. I have been playing the shit out of for the last 2 weeks. So yes, where are we? 5?
Number 5. Yeah. Good choice. All right, my number 5 actually ranked a little bit higher than yours, but looking forward, the last album they did. So again, the 4-piece is back. My guess is this is the last we will see these 4 guys together because I think Mr. Crosby has kind of alienated himself from everyone else, unfortunately.
I have to keep them separated. They don't
Yeah.
talk anymore.
No, they don't talk anymore. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty upbeat album. It's got some good songs in it. I think Faith in Me has got a lot of groove, nice hooks. The title track, I think, is absolutely lovely. I
It's a good
love when all four of them are singing harmonies. It's got nice acoustic guitars on. I mean, that's that's what you want to hear from these guys. At least hear a few of them on the albums. Stand to Be Counted, to me, sounds like it could be like a Crazy Horse song, right? I mean, it's got some pretty gritty guitar work on there. I think you mentioned Heartland. Again, has all those nice harmonies. It just sounds like a classic Crosby, Stills, and Nash Young song. You got Seen Enough, which again is kind of bluesy. We see a couple, on each album you have a bluesy song or two, which is kind of
I don't even remember that song.
Yeah. Slowpoke, again, you talked about it. To me, that's almost like the sequel to Heart of Gold. You listen to that and you're like, wait a second, that literally could have been tack on 4 minutes in the end of Heart of Gold, and there you have Slowpoke. So I kind of dig that. What else we got here? Dream for Him is a really good Crosby number. I dig that one a lot. No Tears Left, another Stephen Stills hard rocker. It's got some really cool fuzz guitar. Again, I don't know, it could be him and Young doing that. I'm not really sure. Queen of the Mall has it's kind of like, again, good pop, kind of rock and country type of vibe to it. And I love Sanibel, which I think was the last track on here. Yeah. Nice vocal harmonies on that one. So, I mean, I dig this album. They're older, they're wiser. But again, like I mentioned, don't expect to ever see these four guys recording again, because I really don't think it's ever going to happen. If it does, I'd be very surprised. But I dig that album. And here, the bottom four are all their more recent albums for me, but I think there's plenty of good material on these albums, like you mentioned before. So, but now, we're getting into the cream of the crop now, obviously.
Ooh, it was hard for me, these top four.
Yeah, I will absolutely agree with you. I'll absolutely
David Crosby, he managed to piss off all his bandmates and every Van Halen fan in the world. Not bad for a 78-year-old.
I know. You think he would have learned his lesson, right? Yeah, that was not cool.
Dude, you're getting towards the end of your life, man. Stop pissing people off.
I know. Did you see the documentary? Did you see the documentary on?
Thanks. Buy me a soda. Yes, I saw it last year. And you watch it and you go, I don't think he means to be a dick. Right. He seems to have a nice heart. Maybe he just played to the camera. I don't know. But I think he's just a dick by accident sometimes. Or habit. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
All right, this is when I start pissing off people, Pete. Everybody watching, get your fingertips going to yell at me underneath in the comments. Number 4.
Wow.
Now, look, I could take my top 4 albums, throw them on the floor, however they arrange on the floor, I can work with that. I'll work with it. All these albums changed in the top 4 for the last 3. Every album was number 1 at one point. Every album was number 4 at one point. So you have to start nitpicking. So let me nitpick, Pete. This album suffers from what I call Zoso syndrome. And what that is we all know Zeppelin 4 is a great, great album. But for a lot of us, we don't want to ever hear rock and roll again. We don't ever want to hear Black Dog again. We recognize they're great songs. We're just burned out on them. And this has Zoso syndrome. Now, if you make an album that's overproduced and trying way too hard, like Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses, I call that the China syndrome. Bad joke, Pete. Edit that one right out of there. Edit that one right out of there. That one did not land. Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is the first song. I'm not as sick of it as I am, like, say, rock and roll, but at times I can be a little burned out on that one. And it's a 7-minute song, and it's the first song. So nitpick number 1, nitpick number 2. If I took every song from these top 4 albums and ranked them best to worst, Marrakesh Express would probably come in last place. Not that it's a bad song, because there's no bad songs here, but it would be in last. I actually like the version on this Demos album better. It's a little bit more stripped down, a little less, for lack of a better word, annoying. You Don't Have to Cry. First song they ever sang together at Joni Mitchell's house. Graham Nash went to Joni's house, and Stephen and David was there. They weren't a band yet. Stephen busted out the guitar, and him and David started singing that song. And Graham knew exactly his place harmony-wise and joined right in. And right at that moment, they said, we got to make this a band and make it work. Actually, did you know Joni Mitchell did the artwork for
for the greatest hits? Yep.
Yeah, and it's the greatest hits. They call it So Far. So far, they put out 2 albums, and they put out the greatest hits. Jesus, guys.
The money machine is rolling, right? Yep.
I know, it's basically Deja Vu with a couple songs from here.
Yep.
Wooden Ships. I mean, come on. These are classic freaking songs. And my favorite thing about Wooden Ships is I love how David and Steven's vocals come out of different speakers. And it's almost like you're in the middle of the conversation. It's say, can I have some of your purple berries? Yes, I've been eating them 6 or 7 weeks now. You're like, oh, okay. Can I have some berries? It's very cool that Steven's guitar in that, the tone is almost like Pat Metheny a little bit. Very badass. Lady of the Album, it's okay. It's okay. Nitpick. Helplessly Hoping. God, I don't think they ever harmonized better, ever, than that song. It's perfect. And the songwriting and the way they did it. The chorus, Steven sings, they are one person. Then Stephen and Graham sing, they are 2 alone. Then you get all 3 singing, they are 3 together. And of course, the next line is, they are for each other. Oh, look at me getting goosebumps. That's just genius songwriting, Pete. It's so simple and so effective. It works. And Long Time Gone, pure classic. I think doesn't it open Woodstock too, as they're showing everyone getting ready for the festival. They play Long Time Gone.
Yeah,
in the background, not the live performance, just in the background.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I nitpicked a little bit, but you got to have a reason why you put it at 4, right?
Yep.
So, there you go.
I mean, I agree with you. I think these 4 albums that we're both going to be talking about here it's like a pick 'em thing, right? I also changed the order of my top 4 a few times. And, you get to a point where you're like, all right, I have already scrambled this around, I should say. Well, kind of like Scrabble, right? You throw the shit down. And too many times I said, you know what, I got to stick with something. And I tend to, when I have a conundrum in these ranking shows like this, I usually say to myself, all right, self, which of these albums do you have the longest history with? And that's what I go with, right? So in saying that, I'd probably given it away. So my number 4 is Daylight Again, which is a tremendous comeback album. And I think the reason why we both were so disappointed with, with this is because it's not this, not even close, right? This is a really, really great, one of, we talk a lot about these kind of great comebacks and return to forms. I mean, this is one of them. And I don't think people mention this one enough. This was a huge album. I mean, I remember this was 1982, right? I remember, 1982.
5 years from the previous one.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all into, all sorts of things metal. I'm, 2 years, in 2 years I'll be in college, and I'm just listening to everything heavy. And I remember this was all, you went into every music store, there was this album sitting there, you turn on the radio or MTV or whatever, this is just all over the place. So, I think people forget just how big an album this really was. Turn Your Back on Love, great catchy song. I mean, a really, really strong lead off track here. Killer Stephen Stills guitar solo. I also want to stress, you kind of hinted at it too when you were talking about the first album, what a great guitar player he is. We all know these guys can dazzle with acoustic guitars, but man, Stephen Stills is a really, really tastic electric player.
My favorite guitar player ever, Pete.
Oh, really?
Not the best ever, but my personal favorite.
You know what? You can't argue that. Really good player. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And we'll talk more about that as we kind of get on here. But a great guitar solo in that. Wasted on the Way, classic Crosby, Stills, and Nash sound. For me, is like a leftover from those first two albums. If you would have slotted that song on either one of those first two albums, I'd be like, yeah, what, you know what? Sounds perfect there. Just a great, great song. Southern Cross is the big breezy pop hit. Love it. Glorious harmonies on that. There's a reason why it was a huge hit. I love Into the Darkness. To me, it's got that kind of like aggressive rockin' edge that like the Eagles had on some of their more rockin' stuff. And again, you know, you look at the time here, 82, you know, the Eagles are already kind of defunct by this point in time. And I think that song just kind of like takes that kind of California, you know, country rock thing one step further. Love that song. Delta, gorgeous piano ballad. Too Much Love to Hide, rocks hard. Dig that one a lot. Daylight, again, the title track, again, goes back to that early kind of folky pop thing that they do so well. Just a really, really fun, enjoyable album that, you know, ranks up there with their best, as you know, we both
Daylight again goes right into Find the Cost of Freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just
right.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
This poncho smells like an old throw rug that like your grandmother used to have on her kitchen floor.
Yep.
It's awful. This thing's going in the garbage after this.
You will be taking a shower after this show, right?
You're not left-handed, are you, Pete?
No.
Damn it. We could have been poncho and lefty. Wasted opportunity. Hold all the CDs in your left hand from now on.
There you go.
All right, number 3. I almost had this at number 1. I had it at number 1 for a good week. I'm going with CSN from 77, I believe.
Yep.
And I wanted to give a shout out to a local record store here, Spoonful Records. I told them I'd give them a shout out. They gave me this one because it has a different cover. And I never noticed that it's a different cover than that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
You know what? That's the one that I have.
Yeah. Of course, when they gave it to me to borrow, yeah, I think that's the more famous one because it's on my cassette and on my CD, but not on my vinyl. And I never noticed the difference in 35 years. So, of course, when they gave it to me to borrow, I called them a few days later with my credit card number and just bought it. Because once an album comes into this house, Pete, it don't leave.
Yeah, I think you got Chris Allo syndrome there. Got to have 3-4 copies of it, right?
Oh, I know. I'm ridiculous. Wait until you see something coming up. So better look. Here they are, chilling, kind of just looking at the camera. And then evidently someone farted because now everyone's laughing. There. So it's there. Hey, and then David, was that you?
Oh,
But other than that, it's a great album. Oh, look, Pete, I got in my notes, say fart joke.
I'm glad you didn't forget. I love a little toilet humor every now and then. So
I wrote material, Pete. So Dark Star, my wife's favorite CSN song. I put that on, and she likes the live version better, which is on Allies. And the live version on this album is a little bit more punchier, a little bit quicker, better to dance to. But this version is great too.
oh yeah.
I think that's where that Caribbean beat that Steven liked, kind of the seeds were planted with that song. It's not exactly Caribbean, but the seeds were planted there. And then he took it further with other songs and other albums. Just a Song Before I Go was written on a dare. David Crosby and Graham Nash were sitting in an airport, as the story goes. And David said to Graham, we got 10 minutes before our plane, we got the board. I bet you can't write a song in 10 minutes. Boom, Just a Song Before I Go. He actually talks about being in an airport. Run from Tears, very unique song. Steven comes into that song almost sounding like Lou Rawls. And I like Lou Rawls. I got a live album by Lou Rawls that kicks ass. God, I have an edge, Pete. I have an edge. But there is some good guitar work in that song that weaves in and out. great little solos. But Cathedral, let's talk about Cathedral. It is my second favorite CSN song ever. And it's almost proggy. And when you think of Graham Nash, you don't think prog at all. I actually got to talk to Crosby, Stills, Nash Young on the radio. There was a show called Rockline that used to be syndicated in America. I think it came out of California, and in our time in Pittsburgh, when I was living in Pittsburgh, it would come on at 11 o'clock at night. And what I would do, first time I ever did it, I got to talk to Pat Benatar as a 15-year-old. And what I did, I was living with my parents at the time, is the show came on at 11 o'clock. I dialed the number at 5 o'clock in the evening. I said, it's ringing. I'm through. Nobody used the phone tonight. And I sat there and watched TV all evening with the phone to my ear, listening to it ring. And around 10 o'clock, they answered, who do you want to talk to tonight? And I said, Pat Benatar. So I learned. 10 o'clock, they start answering the phone. So I did it over and over. I talked to Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd, Aerosmith, Neil Young, because I would just dial the number around 6, put the receiver down about 9:30, pick it up and start. So I did it one time in '88 when they were promoting American Dream. And I asked them, my big question was, Graham, what is Cathedral about? Because I was 18 years old, brought up a nice Catholic boy, and I never heard anyone talk bad about religion at that time. I was like, how could he be? I don't think he's a satanic. So what is he talking about? And he told me, I actually have all my appearances on that show on a tape that I eventually put to a CD.
Oh, wow.
He told me, you just want me to play it? I'm kidding. He told me that there's a lot of good things that have been done in the name of Jesus Christ and a lot of bad things that's been done in the name of Jesus Christ. So you got to watch it, you know? I think that's exactly what he said. I've listened to it so many times. It's actually, he wrote it when he was taking acid in Winchester Cathedral. But if that's what it takes to write a song like this, then take acid in more places, Graham. Go into a 7-Eleven and take acid. Maybe you'll come out with a great song about 7-Elevens.
The Slurpee song, right?
Yeah, the Slurpee. I don't want your Slurpees. They give me herpes. That would not be a good song. Edit that one out too, Pete.
It's all staying in. It's all staying in.
Yeah, I'll wait. And take 2. Yes, so I adore every song on this album. I'm not tired of any song on this album. Love it to death. Number 3 could be my number 1.
Well, it's also my number 3. You know, the long break did not hurt them here. I think the long break helped them. High quality album, lots of great songs. I think, you know, you mentioned all the ones I was going to mention. Shadow Captain's another really cool song from them. I love the little jazzy elements going on throughout that song. Carried Away, Fair Game, big, catchy, lots of grooves. Cathedrals, it's a completely haunting track. Love that. Just the song Before I Go is actually one of my favorite Crosby, Stills and Nash songs of all time. Totally love that. Run from Tears, good hard rock tune. I give you blinds, right?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. I give blind. I don't know. It's a cool rocker, right? Dark Star. I mean, absolutely unforgettable song.
Yeah,
great chorus. Vocal harmonies are amazing. Love the electric piano and organ that's kind of used throughout that song. Really good. I find this album, you know, the one thing that's really different about this album, and maybe that's what makes it so unique, this is a very piano-driven album. Less about all the layers of guitars, I think, and the piano plays a really big role in this album. And I think that really works. And I think that's what makes this album so unique in their catalog and maybe just so magical, right? It's just it's something a little different from them, but you know, ultimately it's all about these 3 guys. And I dig this album a lot. It's really, really, really good. One of their best.
Yes. Were you a casual CSN fan for like a few years and then kind of got into them a little bit more? I kind of get that sense.
I always liked them. I was never like, I have to go out and own all their albums type of guy.
Okay.
So it's like when I would hear them, I always liked everything I heard from this band. It's really, it's one of those things. It's like, and I tell this to people all the time. It's like you can't like own and buy everything of every single band you like, right? I'm pretty close to, 100% on that level, but this is just one of those bands that I always liked. Again, when you look at like my history of the type of music that I've always really dug, they're somewhat of an odd fit, sort of. But I have always liked everything I've heard from these guys. And, I had like a great, that greatest hits set that you had for and many, many years. And then I don't know how long, maybe like 15 years ago or something like that. I was like, you know what? I really want more than just that, because I've always liked everything I've heard, and all this, there are all these songs that I dig that you were like kind of like deeper cuts from this band that of course were not on that compilation. And that's when I started to get into the albums a little bit more. But they have, there's a lot of elements to this band that is in my wheelhouse. I mean, I love the vocal harmonies, the musicianship is top notch. Again, don't love every single song they've ever done, but there's so many that I really do like a lot. So yeah, this has been, there are bands that I've gotten into more from a completist level later in my life, and this is one of them. So yeah, no, I have not been listening to these guys like steady for 30 plus years. I was a casual fan for many years and have gotten more into them in more recent years.
Right. I'm still catching up on a lot of bands. I just bought a box set Nick Drake yesterday. Then I always knew that people liked him. And people I respected, and I just dove right into them, and it's pretty cool. Maybe not for everyone, very folky.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll rank Nick Drake a year from now. I'll give you some time and me some time. Right after we do Bob Dylan, because I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, that won't be happening.
All right, number 2. Might be on paper their best album. And if it's anyone's number 1, I will totally understand. But I'm going with Deja Vu at number 2. Carry On. Great song, one of my favorites. And if you haven't heard the version of Carry On Four-Way Streets, you got to go listen to it now. I think it's about 14 minutes and change. And I play this version for people and they cannot believe it's CSN&Y because it rocks hard, maybe harder than even like anything the Allman Brothers ever did. It's kick-ass. Helpless. You get the impression that most people think that's a Neil Young solo album or solo song.
Yeah.
I get that impression. They forget that it was CSN&Y.
Yep.
Great. I like the version on The Last Waltz, too, a live album that you're not a big fan of. Did you know that they had to remove, somehow they did it back in the 70s, but Neil Young, when he really did that song, he had cocaine under his nose. So they had to use some kind of technology to remove the cocaine under his nose.
Yeah, he was out hanging with the boys before he went on stage for that one. Yeah, that's.
How would you like to be backstage at that show? I bet you it was a party.
Yeah.
Even Van Morrison in that concert is like more energetic than usual.
Yeah.
Almost Cut My Hair. That is no overdubs, live in the studio song. And you can tell when you hear it. It's got that cool hard rock edge. Maybe David's, it's not his best song. It's his heaviest song though.
Oh, that it is. Yep.
Teach Your Children. Classic song. I saw them live in 2000, and I went to the merch table. I'll never forget. And they had little condoms with one little condom in them for sale back there. And on the condom package, it said, "Teach Your Children." I thought that, I was like, I want one of those, but I didn't buy it because in 2000, I was pretty freaking broke. I couldn't even afford that. 4 and 20, great Stephen Stills song. Our House, iconic, used in so many commercials over the past decades. Country Girl, it's like a mini epic that Neil Young wrote. He fit in a 3-part epic into 5 minutes. It reminds me of Broken Arrow, a song he did with Buffalo Springfield, which is kind of like a folk epic as well. Great. Both songs are great. Buffalo Springfield as well. Do you like Buffalo Springfield at all?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, might be their best album, but it's coming in at number 2, and people are like, I know what his number one is now. Is that really his number one? Yeah, it's going to be my number one.
Nothing wrong with that, right? It's a lot of these, all these albums affect everybody differently and come into our lives at different times. So you really, I always say to question someone's favorite is a really weird thing to do. It's like,
Yeah.
because, we all.
You're not in my brain.
Right, exactly. You haven't lived my life. You don't, that's why, I never understand that at all. My number two is the debut, which, my number one and number two kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for weeks. And even right now, I'm like, I can make a case for either one. But I mean, this is, you talk about great debuts. This is a great debut. And this is a super group that really works, right? And we often talk about who was the first official supergroup, right? Some say Cream, some say these guys. Arguably, I don't know. It's hard to say. But these three guys were really well known before this band.
Did the members of Cream come from other famous bands, though?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Clapton was famous, sort of, because he was in John Mayall's band. He was in the Yardbirds. So Clapton was pretty big. But, you could arguably say that Baker and Bruce really were not really well known yet. I think people tend to give Cream that first supergroup tag. But, I just don't know. Honestly, I think these guys were more well known at the time than, the guy. And I don't know, Blind Faith. I'm trying to think if Blind Faith came before this or not. I don't remember.
Matter of months.
Right around the same time, right? So, to me, Blind Faith is more of a supergroup than Cream, just because, Cream became this huge band, but I just don't think that Baker and Bruce were that well known before Cream formed.
Whereas Blind Faith was more of a project, maybe, because they just did one album too.
Right, but that was meant to be like
do more.
Yeah, but Blind Faith is your epitome of a supergroup because all those guys were from big bands and had, pretty well known at the time. So, but so were these guys. But, back to this, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, we've all heard it a million times. It's still a great, great song. I dig it. When I was listening to this the other day, I was like, yeah, I still really dig that song. It's just so well constructed. Marrakesh Express, I get it. It's still fun. It's silly. It's quirky. It's fun. Love the melodies. It's just, you put that song on. That's kind of like this comfortable feel good song that we all have known and loved at some point in our life.
It's only 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah, and that's all it needs to be, right? But I think that's a classic Graham Nash song. I really dig that a lot. And every time I hear that song, I'm like, you know what? That would have made a really good Simon and Garfunkel song. Right? It's kind of
breaking them up in a minute, Pete.
There you go. Gwenevere is a absolutely lovely David Crosby song. Pre-Road Downs, another strong Nash track on here. Nice kind of slice of country rock, I think, and it's got tasty lead guitars and organ from Stephen Stills. I think a lot of people forget that all the really good Hammond organ stuff is also Stephen Stills on this album. It's really, really good. Wooden Ships, drop dead classic. I have loved Wooden Ships since the first time I ever heard that song. Just a great, great song. And some just amazing lead guitar work from Mr. Stills on that song. I think if anybody doubts his skills as a guitar player, listen to Wooden Ships. It's amazing. Helplessly Hoping, haunting folky song. Love that. Long Time Gone. That song, also another unforgettable track from this band. And those are vocal harmonies like we had never heard before. You listen to that song, it sounds just as fresh today as it did way back then when I was 3 years old. And it just became one of their staple songs. I just dig it. This is a great album. Could be my number one on any other day, but today I'm going to go with what I picked a couple days ago, and I'm going to stick with it. So back to you for your number one. We know what it is. We know what both of ours is.
Cassie wants to cause some trouble, so I'm keeping my eye on him. Be good, Sid. You mentioned Gwenevere. Great song, not the band's fault, but here's my biggest issue with Gwenevere. Every time I saw that band live and they did Gwenevere, people like to talk during that song. It is such a quiet song, and you're trying to listen to David Crosby sing about Gwenevere painting pentagrams, and some woman behind you is going, Well, I talked to Barb last night, and she said Pamela's very upset with me. Oh,
Shut up.
my God. When you go to a concert and you don't like a particular song, you have to assume that song is the person next to you, their favorite song, and act that way.
People don't get that concept, Jamie. They don't. Trust me. Yeah.
I know. I never do. All right, my number one.
It's one of the reasons why I don't enjoy concerts as much as I used to, because of that. Because just, anyway, that's a whole that's a rant for another day. Back to your number one.
I saw Sting and Peter Gabriel a few years ago, and during a slower Peter Gabriel song, these 4 women behind me were talking up a storm, and I just turned around and said, "Really?" And they shut up.
There you go. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Had to be done.
Yep.
All right, number one is the best yacht rock album ever made in the history of time. This was my introduction. Not my introduction because I knew their earlier hits on the radio, but this was my first album I ever bought. Actually, my second CD ever bought, December 1986. First CD I ever bought was, very cliche, The Dark Side of the Moon. That's not. There's the actual CD I bought in 1986. Sydney, get down. You're going to knock over my camera. And here's a reissue that has 4 bonus tracks in the back. And here's the vinyl. So that is very Chris Allo-like. Yeah. Wonder how many copies of Mob Rules he owns. So this is a warm blanket for me, Pete. When I put this on, I feel like I'm under a warm, safe blanket. You got Turn Your Back on Love, Since I Met You, Too Much Love to Hide, all rockers, Wasted on the Way. They used to introduce it in the 80s live. This one you might have heard on your radio. Delta. On paper, I should hate this album because of the issues they had while recording it. It was supposed to be a Stills Nash album without David because David was too wasted.
Yeah.
Too wasted. And I have this, I used to have it on VHS back in the 80s. Now I have it on DVD. Daylight Again, live. David looks so wasted in this. He doesn't even look human. I don't even think he blinks in this. He just has this stare. And when he starts to sing, you're like, oh, this is going to be a train wreck. But somehow he still sings like an angel. It's very odd. He did 2 songs. Delta, written by Crosby, great song. Might as well have a good time. He did not write, which is very rare. I think that's the first time someone sang a song on an album that they didn't have some kind of writing credit to. But the other songs, David wasn't even around. They had to get Art Garfunkel to do his harmonizing parts. See, I told you I was going to bring up Simon and Garfunkel again. Song for Susan's a nice little song Graham wrote for his wife at the time. But let's talk about my favorite song of all time, Pete. Since about 1985, my favorite song of all time, anyone will tell you who knows me, is Southern Cross. Love it. And every time I hear it these days, it's like hearing it for the first time. I always tell people my favorite song is Southern Cross. You can disagree with me, but you can't argue with me. And people go, yeah, I can't argue that.
I mean, that chorus is legendary, right?
Yeah, and Stephen's smoky vocals, almost in a Kenny Rogers kind of way. It's just very comforting. And the video with the boats and the silhouettes of them harmonizing together. Oh my goodness, it's so wonderful. Wonderful. Let's see, do I have any other notes on this? No, I was going to incorporate BOC, but I don't know if I'll do that now. Because BOC's, I guess I will do it. BOC's, their album Imaginos is kind of a train wreck behind the scenes. And is it really a BOC album? And on paper, I shouldn't even like it, but it's my favorite BOC album.
It's a great one. Yeah.
A figure. So there you go. Daylight Again.
Well, I can't argue that too much. It is a great album. My number one, obviously, no surprise, is Deja Vu. Which, ironically, the weird thing about this album for me, it's a classic album. It is. But it's almost like it's like 2 entities coming together here, because it's almost like, I don't know how well these four guys work together here. It's almost like Neil Young solo, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they're doing an album together, kind of.
Yeah.
You don't really get, like, when I listen to this album, I don't get this is a solidified four-piece that are happy to be together and making. I don't really get that, but it doesn't matter because the album is so great and the songs are so good. So I always kind of like forego that thought process when I'm listening to this. I mean, Carry On, that is my favorite song from this band.
One morning, I woke up.
It's amazing.
To the harmonizing with me, Pete, and you don't.
It's such an amazing song. It's absolutely, you know, when I think of that song and a lot of my favorite Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young songs, magical, because it's just so different. Nobody sounds like these guys. I love the blend of acoustic and electric guitars on here. The vocal harmony is just amazing. You know, you got the kind of countryish Teach Your Children, that pedal steel guitar. It's a classic song for a reason. Almost Cut My Hair, you mentioned, love that, good bluesy rocker. The title track is great. Our House, again, huge song for them. Joni Mitchell's Woodstock, great song. I mean, they made it their own. It's just, it's.
He wasn't even there. She wrote it by them telling her stories.
Yeah, exactly. Just an amazing song. Everybody I Love You, good rock song. The Unforgettable Helpless, just a timeless classic of an album. And, you know, plus it's got a dog on the cover with them, which, being a big dog lover, I love that too. So, but, you know, these top four for me, you know, like we've said, could change. My order could change. They're just amazing. Not much separates them for me. They're all really, really good. And you know what? The other four, at the bottom, they're still pretty strong. I think they have their moments, but this is a band that's got four drop dead classics and four pretty solid records that probably 75% of the general public have never heard. Unfortunately, that's the sad part.
And I mentioned a song David Crosby sang on Daylight Again that was an outside writer, and I said it's the only one, and then you come back with the Joni Mitchell song. Yeah, I guess there are others.
There's a few. So
yeah,
there we have it. Anybody, Jamie? You wanted to mention a couple other things? I think.
Real quick. I want to do this real quick. Now they only have 8 albums, but they still did a lot of music when you incorporate solo music. Crosby, Nash, Manassas, and we won't even get into the Neil Young albums because he's his own show.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give you the best of the rest. Crosby, Nash, Wind on the Water. That's probably their best album. The title track was a staple whenever you went to go see Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And I don't know if you know the song, but it opens with them singing a cappella. Every time I saw them do it live, that was pre-recorded to like a film about whales. I really wish they would have just once done it live, that a cappella. Best David Crosby album. Most people will say, If I Can Only Remember My Name, which that's the back of. I'm going to go with Oh Yes, I Can. Maybe controversial. Most people probably don't know either one of these albums. They'll just say, okay. Graham Nash, Songs for Beginners. But I want to give a shout out to his 2016 album, This Path Tonight, killer album. Most people overlook that one. Stephen Stills, By a Country Mile, the first one. How many albums can you say have Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton on the same album? Probably the only one. Go ahead, Pete, name another one. Best Manassas is the first album, a double album. It's in 4 parts. Very cool. It's like, these are the country songs, these are the folk songs, these are the rocking songs. Don't forget Stills Young. Long May You Run. Long May You Run, you hear every once in a while, maybe in an archive radio show. But this is a great album. Stephen Stills does a lot of cool bluesy stuff on there. They have all kinds of live albums. But if you want to get a live album and you want to pay about $50 or $60, this is the motherlode there. Live 1974. CDs are falling out. You got 3 CDs and a DVD. Each CD is a set. That's 3 sets. People forget that they played stadiums in 1974.
Yeah.
Stadiums. It's 4 guys with 4 acoustic guitars, no big screens around them, and 55,000 people hushing. It was a different time, Pete.
Yeah, yeah.
And a big, thick book that you would take you a week to read. So there you go. I guess we're done.
Cool.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, that was a fun hour talking about Crosby, Stills, Nash, and
That was an hour? Holy shit.
it went by quick, right? See, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Let's do another one. Let's rank the albums of who I got here. Jackson Brown. I have an edge. I have an edge.
There's an edge. We just
Slayer, can we do Slayer, Pete?
Everybody watching, make sure you down in the comments below, rank the albums as you like them. Do all 8. Do your favorite top 4 or 5. Whatever you want to do is cool with us. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. Everybody hears these albums differently. We all appreciate these musical works differently. So I want to thank Jamie Laszlo for coming on the show once again to talk about a band that he's passionate about. And I thought this was a really fun time here talking about, pretty cool band, pretty unique band. So this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube.
All the damn time.
There you go. And once again, big props to the costume. Jamie went all out for today. I really appreciate that. So
hold on. And Young.
There you go. Great album, by the way. So coming up on the channel, let's see. Later today, you're going to be getting ranking the studio albums from Progressive Metal Titan 0 Hour. If I can squeeze it in, ranking the albums of Doom Legends Pentagram. Tomorrow, Monday night, must-see TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. I got to get out of the habit of saying that. That's coming up tomorrow. We got a great topic for tomorrow. Fantasy supergroups. So you don't want to miss that. And more stuff coming up throughout the week, including ranking the albums of 10cc, among others. So stay tuned for all that stuff. Monsters Den as well. And plus also another viewer appreciation day with Dawn the Chaldean coming up this week on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about our favorite ever songs sung by the legendary Ronnie James Dio. So stay tuned for that as well. For Jamie Laszlo, I am Pete Pardo. See you all later. Take care, Jamie. Thanks once again.
Later.